I grind for the love of the game. NBA opening night, just in sight. Grind for the love of the game. Ranks, ADP. What's wrong? What's right? Welcome back to Projecting to Jump, everybody.
We're here. We're just started the NBA season's right around the corner. Just a couple days away.
You know, it's funny because I just freshly thought of a metaphor around Christmas and being a child. And you're so excited. It's Christmas season, and it's like 2nd of December, 15th, blah blah blah. Then one day you wake up and you're like, it's December 23rd. Like Christmas is literally around the corner. For an NBA junkie, I just did my longest standing dynasty draft. Got my drafts in the books. I feel like I'm really ready to wake up and try to catch Santa Claus on Tuesday.
Yeah, it feels weird to be transitioning from this pre-draft process into the actual, okay, like I'm going to start adjusting my lineups now going forward. I mean, it's, I know a lot of people are this is the big draft weekend coming up. So if you're just listening to it for this, welcome for that. But if you've already drafted, this is also really kind of a fun a moment to just relax and take in some content.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that. So this is being recorded October 21st, Saturday evening. Editing will happen after we record. You'll probably be listening to this Sunday at the earliest. So if you still have a draft, awesome. But yeah, this is just a good way to examine whether you've drafted or not. So this is what the podcast is. This is basically a ranks examination. So, I want to go in, and Nate and I took a look, like what it's Yahoo's pre-draft ranks we're using, like where are they missing the mark? What this is not is a do not draft list. This isn't even a fade list. This is simply like a great exercise in using rank in ADP and comparing the two as a means of seeing where there's value in a draft. So it's basically a value identification tool. Also, I'd recommend playing along at home. So for Yahoo, this is the path. So on your desktop, under the ranks, there's a draft analysis tab. You hit that and you can follow along and use the ADP we'll be using. And if it's on your phone, you go to the players. And instead of having it be available players, you switch it to all players, hit season rank, and then you can follow along if you'd like at home. So
yeah, let's get after it. And for anybody this is their first time listening, kind of our general gist on projecting the jump, I hope you kind of follow through on the season. We typically will do a lot more deeper dives on players. This is kind of a fun one for us because it's a lot more quick takes, but typically throughout the season, it's a lot of kind of deeper analysis on kind of those fringe roster players or making kind of finesse moves as far as regard on trade. So hopefully some kind of good food for thought for the entire season, and we'd love to have you the whole season long.
Please stay. No, it's a good point. So this is a bit of a rapid fire, but there's good research in there. So let's just get it started. So when I began this exercise, examining the first rounds, this player was he was squarely in it. He's fallen out a little bit. The player that I think is going too high in your general first round is Kyrie Irving. He has a rank of 14 and ADP of 13.1. When I came up with this topic, he was still squarely in the first round. I saw him go at number 12 overall in the draft last Friday. So this is my basic analysis, Nate, and let me know what you think. If you take Kyrie as your highest drafted player, or even your second highest, and you don't feel a little nauseous, then I have some literature on the flat earth I'd love to sell you. Cheap prices too. So that's my analysis. I just don't want to play fantasy that way. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think the first round is pretty safe. I don't think there's a lot of misses in here. I think they're all just kind of an eye of the beholder, how you want to build your team. But why take that much risk in the first round, right, especially for a guy who historically is only going to play 60 games? Like, why take that pill right off the bat? I think the rest of the first round is just a matter of how you want to build your team. I totally 100% agree with that take. I did give in that first round, and I don't know what you think about this, but I kind of thought that small forward is a little shallow this season. So I gave small forwards a little bump up, that being Jason Tatum in particular. And I also found that there's an elite category of point guards that I thought was kind of a little bit head and shoulders above the second tier. So I gave of that elite category a slight bump up as well in that first second round kind of window.
Two good things in there I want to touch on. Number one is, yes, I think historically small forward's the position that after you draft, if you're not cognizant of it, you can find yourself like making some begging trades, like your roster. There was one year where I think I had 2 eligible small forwards, and it like literally kept me up at night. Like I know that's sick and wrong and means, I need to get a life, but it like really bothered me, man. Like I was like, I can't live this way with 2 small forward eligible players. So that's a great point. And then on the point guard tier, the player I have as being too low is Tyrese Halliburton. He has a rank of 6 and an ADP of 6.9. But for him to have an average draft position of 6.9, that means people are getting in at 7, 8, sometimes 9. And I think that's wild. I think outside of the Joker, that Hallie may be the most sure thing on the board. Statistically, I think this is prime Steve Nash playing in the 2023 NBA game environments. I just think the combination of floor and ceiling with him and fun factor, you have it all. So I think you got to start looking his way by pick 3. And if you want to take him over Embiid, I got no problem with it. About you?
Yeah, 100% agree with those takes. I feel lockstep with you on that one.
Beautiful. So that's the first round. So moving on to the second round. There's a popular player I have is too high, and I'm excited to hear your take on this guy here. I got Mikal Bridges as going too high. He has a rank of 19 and ADP of 19.5. So, I can see the upside case, as a high usage scoring wing. He's now the lead guy on the Nets. But when I looked into it, his other stats were a little more hollow than you may think once he came over to Brooklyn. So in his time with the Nets last season, you got 4 rebounds and 2 assists as a net, and the blocks and steals went down from his career averages. In those 27 games, you got a single steal and 0.6 blocks. So with the increased responsibility as the go-to guy in an offense, and he looked great, you saw a bit of a decrease in everything else. So I think the perception of the player and the popularity of the player kind of outweighs the production aside from the scoring stats. So if he was going in the mid third, I'd be great with that. I just think there's shots in the second round I'd rather take. I think he's a sneaky player as far as the fact that like he may not have the crazy across the board upside that we feel like when we think back to his days as a role player with Phoenix, with that efficiency and those defensive stats.
Yeah, I can see that. I have him squarely in the middle of my second round of my particular rankings, but I also feel a little I feel a little saddened in a certain way because
Right.
I have loved drafting Mikal Bridges over the
He was
last
the glue
handful of
guy.
years.
He's
a glue guy, and I feel like he was that like really nice mid-round draft guy that you felt like you had a little secret, and now the secret's out. And I do worry about the upside. I don't know if there's upside at that particular spot. I think his floor is incredibly high, but I don't know if you're looking at drafting a guy in the second round that you think is going to be top 10. And that's kind of part of the reason you might be drafting somebody there. I don't see top 10 upside there.
I was going to give a bloated metaphor about the character from She Is All That, and Mikal Bridges going from glue guy to popular girl, but I'll leave that on the table because what you said about in the second round, I'm looking for a guy who can get me first round value. I don't see that with Bridges. The player I think is going too low, I do see that, and that's Trae Young. Now, I went back today to comb through, and his rankings in ADP had ticked up since I started researching this. His rank is 15, ADP is 17.9. But I think the nearly identical ADP, a little bit higher over Bridges. You get elite production in 4 categories. You get scoring, free throw percentage, the 3-pointers, and the assists. It's very easy to build around. And I think he's a first round value in the right builds, as to where Bridges, like we talked about, is being drafted at his absolute ceiling. I think Trae Young's being drafted around his medium outcome, if not closer to his floor, and his ceiling, it's still top 10. It just is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Where are you at on Trae?
I agree. I mean, he's a terrible defender, but somehow he kind of has the Steph ability to rack up steals on top of that, and kind of give you a pretty round game. He's a great deal, and I think there has been a little bit of a overall fade from the NBA community on him. But I think for fantasy reasons, he still is absolutely elite. I love point guards in general in the second round, so I have a number of point guards that I bumped up into this category too in my rankings for the second round. And maybe you're going to jump on these guys too, but I also put Cade. I put Cade squarely into that spot. I actually have him one spot after Trae Young here.
Whoa, that's you've always been high on Cade, and I respect it. That's pretty high. I would rather have Cade than Bridges in a vacuum in a 9 cat league, but
Mhm.
that's a lot higher than consensus. So I respect that.
It is. It's one of my bigger jumps out there, but I love the ability to, especially with those early round picks when you're figuring out what your build is. I love guys that are going to give you across the board production that then later in the rounds give you flexibility to take the best value available
Yeah.
rather than taking somebody early, on and then be like, okay, well, my build is now for the rest of the draft. I need to find these particular guys and be reaching for those ones. So a guy like Cade at this part, although he's got a pretty low floor, I like the ability to kind of across the board production.
So would it be fair to say that you're projecting a jump for Cade here in year 3?
I think it's pretty fair. I mean, he looked. I think that Team USA experience was, historically has been really valuable for guys coming off of that. Kind of having access to those best of the best of coaches, playing against the best of the best competition. He wasn't on the Team USA, but he was on
Yeah.
the select team. And he got a lot of, he was spoken of very highly. And from everything that came out, if Detroit wasn't playing a little bit conservative with his injury coming back, he would have clearly been on that team and would have been probably playing a large role. So I think, I do have him I'm projecting him a pretty good jump there. And so obviously into the middle of the second round.
Last thing on Cade, and to your point here, ADP average is 35. DeJounte's 33. Give me Cade Cunningham over him every time. I think he's at least a round, if not 2 rounds higher, as far as his ceiling outcome. And then Jaylen Brown is going just 1 pick after as far as ADP. And there's just no world, especially with the additions that Boston has as far as the usage for Jaylen Brown. There's no way that's going up. So every
Mhm.
time, yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a little bit of a second to third round sleeper appeal with Cade chilling, and I think you could be happy with a mid-second pick on him.
Yeah.
All
But
right,
moving
let's.
into the third round, who you got highlighted in here?
All right, well, this one pains me, Natron.
Oh,
I'm a huge fan of this player. I know you are too. His rank and his ADP are technically sound. They're spot on. But this is my entire analysis. I just can't with this bro. His games played. So this is Paul George. His games played.
oh yeah.
PG. We love PG, but his games played since the Clippers made that dastardly trade since 2019-20. He's played 48 games, 54, 31, and 56. His rank is 28 and his ADP is 32. So the opportunity cost of just like plugging my nose and taking this guy in the mid-third round, it's similar to Kyrie. It's just not how I want to build my teams out. Now I do think the injury prone, and I want to hear if you could let me know what you think about this part, especially the injury prone tag is overrated, but I've seen this guy in the player pool during the fantasy playoffs one too many times, and I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, it's interesting that particular block of 12 picks. I also only had one guy highlighted as somebody that I had considerably lower than where he was going, and that was also Paul George. And for all the reasons that you said, I mean, I love him. I love his game. He's
Yeah.
well rounded. He only helps, doesn't hurt, but he can't stay healthy. And I don't, and I think it'd be pretty rare to see like an aging guy turn that trend, which we have seen. We saw with Brook Lopez last year, but in the third round, that's a little steep for me. If he slips into the late fourth, yeah, I'm gonna jump all
Yeah.
over him. I mean, I have him. At in on our auction value. I'm at 22. His ADP is 28 for. So it kind of gives you an idea of what I kind of think of him, but it's
Yeah.
too rich for my blood at that point.
Paul George is one of those players that once I'm in the fourth round and my pick is approaching and he's on the board, I just kind of hope he goes so I don't have to be faced with that decision. Just kind of hope someone else takes him right in front of me. He's a sharply dressed man, great looking guy. Seems like a great guy, but yeah, Paul George's time on my fantasy rosters has passed.
Okay, so this is I do have a question for you because it
Okay.
is applicable for both the last round and this round in particular. And it's something that I've been wrestling with. And there's a couple guys from this team who I have moved up significantly and then moved way down and then moved back up again. And I haven't quite, depending on the day, I do wildly different things
I'd love to
with.
help.
And yeah, so I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. And at the moment, I have them ranked both considerably higher than ADP. But these are members of the Toronto Raptors. And so I'm trying to decide what I think that the outcome of this team is. And I'm thinking that in this range, we're talking about last round Pascal Siakam, right now Scotty Barnes. What do you think? Are you higher on lower on Raptors than general consensus?
One of those players you mentioned is on my fifth round list. So I'm going to save the analysis for him. And if I offer analysis of the other player, I will reveal that player. But that's okay. You've come to listen to a podcast, not play some mystery game. Pascal Siakam, I think, is going too high. I do.
This is great. I haven't gone too low.
Yeah, no, he's what, late 20s. Yeah, and I think in our draft and the auction, yeah, the dollar amount you paid for him, he's on your roster, right?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, higher than I want. There's something about him. This Raptors team has kind of funny vibes. Him and the GM, drawing a blank on his name.
Messiah Jerry.
They're going to say Mason Plumlee. yeah, Jerry. No,
real twist.
Obviously there's some weird beef going on there, something going on. And I just think I think he has already peaked as a lead facilitator, ball handler, and scorer on the Toronto Raptors. And I don't think any team that trades for him, and I think New York is, there's a lot of whispers there, is going to put him in a featured role. So I feel like the outcomes based on the situation, what I've seen from the player, yeah, I'm not interested in the second. There's other guys in the third I'd rather have as well. So he's pretty much a fade for me. He would have to fall pretty far. I'm just not interested.
I like that analysis. And then, I guess I'm quite curious because on one hand, Nick Nurse obviously ran his player, so quite a bit higher average minutes per game. So I think it's pretty safe to right off the bat to project all those players 10% down on minutes. At the same time, there was.
What are you talking about, Natron Clean? What are you talking about?
So I think it's kind of the balance of what that minutes reduction will look like versus potentially having a little bit more free flowing, more updated offense. And so I guess I'm all over the board on them, but I think I'm a little bit higher on consensus on the Raptors than ADPs are.
Yeah, which is fair. I mean, if you want Dick on your team, if you want Grady, you probably start reaching by around 19 or 20. But shout out Grady Dick. Interesting pick. This reminds me of like Corey Kisper. I just don't know why it's just a weird pick in the lottery. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a pick for a team that thinks that they are a small piece away.
Right. Just sign Max Strus. Like if you think you need a shooter, they were not one shooter away from anything. All right. Yeah. We're rolling on, y'all. So too low. This is the player I have is too low. And it is Karl Anthony Towns. Nate, I'm interested. I don't know how you're going to feel about this one, so hear me out. He has a rank of 26, ADP of 23.8. So that ticked up a bit since I came up with the premise and the outline and picked my players. So he's just ticking right up into the hair of the bottom of the second, but he goes in the third plenty. Okay. So as the ADP is beginning to show us, during this tick up, I just don't think Towns should be available any time in the third round in any format. And I think whether it's a 9-category league, whether it's a points league, whether it's a rotisserie league, he just has such a well-rounded fantasy game that the format is irrelevant. And this is why I love him this year, because he's been a first rounder basically every year since his rookie year. He had an ADP last season of 9.3, and I think that was a little high at the time. But I mean, now you can get him in the third. He played 29 games last year prior to the calf injury, or no, total. That's total. Then he sustained that calf injury. prior to the injury, he was the 15th ranked player in 9cat. And I think it reminds me of Trae Young. I think drafters seem to have fatigue with Karl Anthony Towns. I think much like Trae Young, there's like a relative lack of popularity with these guys. And I think it seeped into their ADP this year. In our auction league, I tried to capitalize on that. I thought I got great prices on them both. So yeah, Karl Anthony Towns, for me, he's in the 18 to 20 range, which is age 27 season. The Gobert thing, I think that's baked into the ADP now. We're not drafting a high usage, do everything, go to guy center anymore. We're drafting a do it all player who's going to help you everywhere, still carries crazy weekly upside. Any week, he could be a top 5 player. I just like getting that, in the 3rd round or an auction. I think I paid $38. I felt good about that. Where are you at with Towns? I know you're not a huge fan, but yeah, fantasy wise, where are you at?
It is ironic for a couple guys that do a podcast. I think that if Karl Anthony Towns never did a podcast, he would be solidly in the upper 2nd rounds. But his doing podcasts over the course of the summer have eroded kind of his popularity so much that I think that's part of the reason that he slipped quite so far. Because he is great. He's clearly is great, but there is a lack of popularity, and I think it is a little bit of a we've seen it, and so like we're kind of expecting the dip because he's been doing it at such a high level for so long, but he did come into the league doing it right away. So although I don't like him much, I don't really trust him much as a real life player. It's hard to argue that production, and I once again, even I plugged my nose and I have him in my in right in that like second, like late 2nd, early 3rd round ratings, and Min's probably too low.
But if you see him fly off the board at 18 or 20, you're not like, what's this guy doing? They have no idea what they're doing.
No, yeah, it's I mean, like you said, in our draft, like the moment that he went on the clock, the further went on, I was like, what am I doing? I need to be in on this guy, and you still got a good value on him.
Question about the 3rd round just popped in my head. So first couple of rounds, I think we both feel like you want to set a foundation, minimize risk. 3rd round is kind of this interesting area where I look for a combination of both. But as we get from the 3rd into the 4th, is there any philosophical change as far as how much upside or how much of like a variance you're willing to gamble on? And that bleeds into my 4th round player, who I think is too high, and I'll give you that name after. But where are you on upside versus safety in this 3rd to 4th round range of drafts?
That's a good question. I feel like the 4th round is where you can definitely take big swings. I mean, I'm looking at my 4th round right now, and it's littered with guys that I have significantly higher than ADP at this point.
Okay.
That's based off of the rankings. I think in practicality, it's the first opportunity to really start building out your roster construction a little bit. As you get your foundational guys, you can kind of be like, okay, well, this is the roster I'm going for, and then you can kind of tinker with it a lot more. But you're right. I mean, I have 5 guys in a row that I have highlighted at the top of the 4th round that I have that are going a round or 2 earlier than average.
Why don't you toss out a couple names? I'm too curious to wait. Then I'll give you my 2 high player.
Well, my number 1, which is going to be way higher than average. I'm gonna roll 2 real quickly here.
Okay.
The first is Franz Wagner.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because in Yahoo he has 3 positional opportunities. I feel the same way with Josh Giddey. I don't feel actually that great about Josh Giddey, but 3 positions is pretty stellar. Franz Wagner I feel really good about. I think he has a good chance of blowing past that value, and he just kind of helped your team quite a bit. But the main guy this is a spicy take.
This is the 4th round we're talking?
This is I have this player ranked at 41 on my rankings, but he's going significantly lower than that. And once again, it's a player that I don't think is actually really good in real life.
Jordan Poole?
That is, well, no, I have Jordan Poole higher than that.
Okay.
I have Jordan Poole ranked at 34, but I have Anthony Simons ranked at 42.
In a 9 category league?
In a 9 category league, I have an Anthony Simons so much higher than everybody else.
Okay, I have an Anthony. You shouldn't have told me that. I'm going to remember that when we're negotiating. I have an Anthony Simons share I'm willing to negotiate with you.
I know, I know. It was one of the most
42nd.
frustrating things, and as you can tell, in our draft, my internet blipped out for about 10 seconds, and you
Right.
ended up scooping them ahead of
For
me. And
$8.
in an auction draft, which was a real bummer. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think basically what we've seen off of Anthony Simons is A, he's not that good, but B, when Dame is not around, he puts up exceptional numbers. I mean, he puts up top 20 numbers when he's not, when he feels completely empowered to run the offense. And I think he's going to feel that way this season. And I think that we were going to see 3-point shooting numbers through the roof. We're going to see scoring and efficiency, kind of that are kind of almost on that Steph Curry level, Steph Curry light of sorts.
No, it was really cool.
How crazy is that?
It's not, well, it's pretty high. The thing is remember, and Nate, I think you'll agree with this, just because you have him ranked 41 doesn't mean you're taking him there, right? In a snake draft. Heck no. He's just going to be at the top of your list by the time it starts to get reasonable. Maybe you're in the bottom of the fifth and you're willing to reach a bit. I get that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say about Anthony Simons as kind of bring him back, a secondary Blazers fan or just geographical. I've been following the team, and it's been cool watching the evolution of Anthony Simons as far as his feeling, like his confidence level. And I think this year he's going to feel a sense of entitlement, not in an arrogant way, but he's kind of like, I paid my dues here. I sat behind Dame and CJ. I showed that I can be a go-to scorer. And I know we've talked a little bit about, there's a kind of a four-way tug and pull, but I think honestly, like for this season, this is Anthony Simons' team. Do you agree with that as a Blazers fan?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the franchise, I think the front office and the entire franchise wants to see what that looks like, because they know that they're committed, at least for a while, to building around Jaden and Scoot. They want to see how that's going. But the biggest question mark is, does Anthony fit in with those two, or is he somebody that wants to get traded? And I think they're going to spend this season figuring that out. So I think he's a smash in as far as draft goes, and I think everybody should be targeting him in their leagues.
I actually got a message on Twitter from a commissioner in another league, and he asked me if I'm interested in Simons, and I was like, "Hey man, I'm about to record a podcast, but yeah, we can talk later." And I said I heard Josh Lloyd shout you out because he was on one of his mock drafts. I thought it was funny. And I was like, "You took Bam at 20, dude. What are you doing? Josh burned you." But okay, so we'll transition out of the Anthony Simons talk. Natron has him ranked 41. I don't think it's wild. Just please don't take him there. So here's my too high guy, Jalen Brunson. He has a rank of 38, ADP of 37. They're kissing each other. Now listen, Brunson is absolutely fine where he's going. I don't have an issue with where he's going. This first jumped out to me because I feel like he's being drafted at his ceiling. I love some of the values in this round. Brunson is almost at the bottom of the third. I mean, ADP of 37. I just don't want him as my third or fourth best player, especially my third. You get high scoring, that's cool, but you're only getting 2 threes a game. His 6 assists is fine. Almost no defensive stats. He didn't even average a full steal. So in this range, give me Darius Garland, give me Evan Mobley, and definitely give me my next player whose ADP is right next to him over Brunson. So yeah, I'll let you rebuttal. I think he's a high floor pick, and maybe if you've gambled a bit early, but please don't be gambling too hard in your first 3 rounds, or if this is the end of the third. I just don't see it in a 9-category league. I think that we might have seen his best season last season, or at least what his best season looks like. Maybe I think the hope is he repeats last season this season.
Yeah, he clearly had a great off season for Team USA. Kind of was the leader there, but I kind of feel exactly the same way.
Okay.
I saw his ADP and I thought, oh man, I really would have liked him on my team. I really would have enjoyed having him, but at that price, it's not gonna happen. Right. And it's not because I don't like the player, I do, but it's just it's about 8 picks, 9 picks too early in my mind.
Agreed. That was okay. I didn't know if we would agree on that one, but right on. Okay, so this is who I'm taking over him 10 times out of 10. He has a rank of 42. His ADP is 38.9. He is also a point guard. Nathan Licky, any idea what point guard I might be drafting in that range?
Probably Fox.
Yes, this is De'Aaron Fox. It is De'Aaron Fox.
Real shock there.
If you're new to the show, or it's, if you don't draft with us every year, every single time this player is nominated in an auction, people are like, oh god, here comes Jamie, oh, about to blow the wad, blah blah blah. This year I really appreciated not getting bid up. I got him at $25, and I appreciate it, guys. You could have bid me up to 32. I appreciate that. I'll remember it. So here's the thing, man. I think, yeah, he's an across the board player, whose only concern is pretty low weekly free throw percentage floor. I bring up the weekly thing because I had him year in, year out. He averaged about 77% from the line last year. He does have some weeks where he's really off. He's a streaky free throw shooter. He'll have weeks where he shoots 85% from the line. So if you punt those, he's a borderline second rounder. But even if you're just absorbing them into the team, I just think he seems to be ranked and priced as if he did not take that mini leap last season. He did take a leap. I also like these players that play for teams that are going to push it till the end. The Kings are going to be fighting for that third, fourth, fifth seed range. Just a little nugget. Sometimes I'll use it as a tiebreaker. If it's a team at the very top that might rest guys, or a team at the very bottom that might have incentive to tank, I like players in the middle like De'Aaron Fox. Little nugget.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and tell me that I'm totally off my skis with Fox.
No, you're not. I think this is after you get past that first wave of point guards, I think he's right at the kind of the front of that next wave. And I think it's a lot of it is pairing, because the first couple guys don't have much obvious holes in their game. De'Aaron Fox has a couple deficiencies that if you can build around one or two things, then he's stellar, and he's a front guy. So I got no problem with this whatsoever. And my only regret is not bidding you up more, apparently.
Well, I appreciate it. I think everybody just moved on and was going to grab a beer once De'Aaron Fox came up this year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, in this round, this range here, I think it's a good thing to kind of keep in mind too, is take a look at what your scoring format is, because Yahoo standard defaults maybe complete their rankings and their ADP may be completely different than what you're going for. I mean, the Yahoo default league has 2 centers in it. For instance, maybe you don't have 2 centers. So a lot of these ADPs reflect a higher center rating. So centers are getting a little bit of a boost across the board. So I think that's something to kind of keep in mind. If you have 2 centers, then that's totally fair. But if your league does not,
ours is not.
Ours is not. And so I have went through on my rankings and gave every center about a 5 to 7 spot drop. And so a lot of these centers in these leagues are in this range. Like, for example, Walker Kessler is going right around here, and Walker Kessler is great, but I'm not taking him anywhere near this high. They just don't think that there's quite the around the board production. And I think that's really a reflection of a 2 center system. I think Miles Turner is going in that third round too, and I feel a little queasy about that as well. And I think there's just a lot of centers that fly off in this particular area that I would prefer to wait on.
I'm a little frustrated right now. Can I be honest? I thought we were going to be a little more like KOC and Burno, but we're just kind of agreeing a lot, which is cool.
Yeah,
but no,
I'm gonna come up with some things that we really dislike about each other here real quick. This will be funner.
So the player I have here is too high in the 5th round is not Walker Kessler, but it's a similar reason. So I have Jared Allen here. His rank is okay. So his rank is 54, ADP is 56. So what I jotted down, which I like, is I feel similar to the Fro. Are we still doing the Fro thing? We're saying, is that his nickname?
Yeah, and once again, this falls into my belief that players with tall hair typically get overrated. I think it's that Fletch, is the little Fletch bump. I don't know if anybody's seen the movie Fletch with Chevy Chase out there.
Fletch Lives came on at a hotel recently. It's not good, but I'll watch it at 2 a.m.
Yeah, right. It's not good. The first one was fantastic. Yeah, 7'4", the afro. And so I think that just for the same reason that I was thinking that Anthony Black might get a little overdrafted this year. I'm going to put I'm going to put both these guys in the same category.
That's Magic's rookie point guard Anthony Black.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, I think Jared Allen is as a center is similar to how I view Brunson as a point guard. Um, but these are players with comparable skill sets and profiles. Well, rather, there are players later that have comparable skill sets and profiles to Jared Allen, and I think there are some guards like for instance, I'd much rather have Simons 3 rounds later than Brunson, and there are some players that I'd much rather have 3 rounds later than Jared Allen. Last year, Jared Allen gave you 14 points and 10 blocks, so that's cool. I think people draft him for his blocks. Natron Clean, how many blocks did Jared Allen average last season? You got to guess.
1.6.
1.2.
Okay.
And obviously this can fluctuate. People need to. It's very important. I know Josh Lloyd hammers this home. Steals in particular, but steals and blocks that can really fluctuate season to season. I know you and I argued a lot about Gary Trent and his steals not being sticky last season in the preseason, and they weren't that sticky. So I won that one. He still got steals, but he didn't have that crazy outlier season top 5. They can fluctuate. So I would actually.
Did you trade for him from my team or midway through the season? Sorry. Me. Just an aside.
That wasn't me.
Oh, okay. He ended up on your team though.
Oh well, maybe he did, but maybe I streamed him in for some steals. But yeah, I would actually. I'd rather take a shot on Walker Kessler if I'm gonna draft. If I feel like I need a big guy in round 5, I'd rather draft a player who can lead the league in blocks. But rather than do that, I'd rather wait for Mark Williams in Charlotte. I'd rather wait for Dan Gafford in Washington. I'd rather wait for Jalen Duren 30, 40 picks later, some of these guys, than take Jared Allen in the 5th. Why is Jared Allen going in the 5th?
I don't really understand that. I feel the same way with Nick Claxton too. Even though I like both the players, I feel like that you can get 90% of the production five rounds later. Especially if it's you're drafting for 2 categories there. There's not I think that I don't really see the value.
You're drafting for 3, you're getting rebounds, field goal percentage, and blocks. But with Jared Allen, you're not getting that many blocks, which is sneaky. I definitely like Claxton about a round more than Jared Allen. I just think, he averaged, off the top of my head, I think he averaged 2.8 blocks last year. And I do love Nick Claxton. I just do. It's fun to watch. But yeah, I have him about a round higher. But anyways, high in the 5th.
I haven't faded. I have him in my 6th round. So okay. I hear you.
Anyone else you want to touch on in the 5th is going too high?
In the 5th, the only one that I have, I got Kawhi Leonard going too high. I got Zach LaVine going too high, but those ones are whatever here or there. Here's one that maybe you're going to completely disagree with me on, and I'm fading Jamal Murray a little bit
in the 5th.
In the 5th, I have him going more like in the 6th. And I just think that he's a little bit of he's a fantastic playoff performer and regular season performer. He takes some games off and coasts some nights, and I don't really see the elite upside.
That's an interesting one. I love Jamal Murray. He's one of my probably 10 or 12 favorite players in the league to root for. But I haven't had a strong take on him this fantasy season. He is going, his ADP is 41. His rank is 43. Yeah, there's other guys in the range I'd rather have. I would take Jamal Murray over Jalen Brunson personally. But that's more of just a personal preference. I just like Jamal Murray more. But yeah, I like the fact that in the playoffs he stepped his game up. He averaged 26 points, 7 assists, 6 boards. And I think he's proven he's past the torn ACL. And I think that's a big deal. But he is one of these players that, if the Nuggets have locked up home court advantage, he could, in your fantasy playoffs, depending on when they are, you could get some rest days. So yeah, he returned 6-round value last season and 9 cat. So he is actually being drafted ahead of where he finished last season. He isn't getting younger. I think that's a good call. I think Jamal Murray should be more mid 5th. And if you can get him in the 6th, like, wow. But he's not, I don't like him at ADP. I think he needs to be about a half a round lower than he's going, which again is ADP of 41. Yeah. So
yeah, in the 6th round, here's a guy that I hate myself for having as going a full round and a half earlier than this. And I was so thankful I didn't get him in our league. That's Jalen Green. Is any chance he ends up on any of your teams?
No, I'm good. I'm chilling. It's a say. Yeah, no, I'm definitely good. I would rather take a shot with the fun factor of Scoot Henderson in the same range than draft Jalen Green this season. I didn't think we'd talk about Jalen Green today. I didn't know we'd get that low. Where do you have his ADP in front of you? I can get it.
Yeah, I unfortunately have him at 68.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like the latest update is
insane.
He's 77.7.
Oh no,
right?
so that's my personal ranking. I don't know.
You got you have him high. Dang. Okay. His rank is 71, his ADP is 77. So even though there's the high flying, highlight factor of Jalen Green, it's interesting to see his ADP below his rank. So you have him, you still have him in the 60s.
I do.
You can't quit him. You can't quit Jalen Green.
I really did not want to leave any draft with him, but at the same time, I think I'm more scared to not draft him than I am almost any other player. I feel like there's always a few of those guys that you don't want to draft. I mean, Zion Williamson is kind of the quintessential version of this, the guy that you're so afraid to not draft.
Wimby this year. I mean, I think both of us left that podcast 2 days ago thinking, maybe we should have gotten a share of Wimby.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you do this too. I mean, it's okay. Like, we're not locking in these tanks and etching them in stone. But okay, let me circle back to my too low player from the 5th round because I refused to talk about him earlier when you prompted me. So the players in the 6th round in general feel pretty on value. So I was trying to think, like, who do I think has the best shot in going in the 6th round right now at top 40 value? And I think it just might be Scotty Barnes. I do. And I was totally ready to just kind of not be out on him, but I was so high on him last year and I got a little over my skis. His rank is 49, his ADP is 50, but he's just looked fantastic in the preseason, man. Like, and I didn't get him anywhere, despite the fact that he does have my guy status. He is one of my guys. But I think the team might run through him in his 3rd season. I think that in the end, when the dust settles on the season, if it's not working out, I think that it's going to be Pascal that's the odd man out, not Scotty Barnes. I think they're not trading Scotty Barnes. I think if they were going to trade one of them, it would be Pascal. So I do kind of I want to embed that into my ranking and my projections of Scotty Barnes a little bit. But I don't know. I think he showed that he can run a team in the preseason. I know it's just a preseason, but he flashed some stuff that I was hoping to see from him last year. And the runway is clear for this dude, man.
Yeah, I mean, according to rumors, they rebuked trades for KD and Lillard for him. If the rumors are to be true, but I have him ranked as my number 27th player.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Pause the podcast.
Yeah. And part of that is the small forward bump. Part of that is the fact that the offense is going to run, like you said, the offense is going to run through him. He's Point Barnes this season.
You say 27th?
Yeah, I'm way up there. I think he's gonna. I think
his
numbers are going to go so high.
Okay.
I think he's going to be. I wouldn't be shocked to see him average 8 assists this season. 8 assists, 8 boards, 20 points. I mean, I think we're going to see a giant jump up. You're not going to get threes. He's a good defender. You kind of hope that the defensive stats kind of come in line. They've been low. They were super low last season, which is part of the reason that he was torpedoed, was that he basically averaged at, I'm going to have to look this up, but a really low number of blocks and steals. So if he can raise them up just a little bit back to what his reputation was coming into the league, I think you're looking at a top 25 player easy.
Let the record show that Nathan Lickey has ranked Scotty Barnes number 27 in 9 category leagues for the 23-24 fantasy basketball season. Let the record show this. You've taken him. He's no longer my guy. He's your guy. I don't have him that high. I don't see a top 25 case for him. Top 35 maybe, but yeah, I mean, I guess we're splitting hairs at that point. But yeah, I think so. We agree. He's too low in the 5th. I mean, geez.
He's way too low in the 5th. Yeah, if he's there in your 5th, what are you doing? Like,
the point is, we agree.
That, it's like,
okay,
yes,
right on. Well, that'll be fun. We'll root for him together. We'll be doing props and all kinds of stuff following trends. So let's have our friendship kind of run through Scotty Barnes this season. Okay.
Fair. I'm into that.
You want to get into the 6th round?
Yeah, I think a couple guys I have in this range. That depends on where you're drafting and when. I'm not touching James Harden, and I'm not touching, I am absolutely not touching him. A guy that I would be reluctant to draft, although like I'm totally in favor of. I feel like I'm totally on board with the idea of like plug your nose and draft this type of aging vet. But I'm not touching that his range right now, which is Vujacic. He's just too old.
Booch, old man squad.
He's great. I mean, he's stellar, but you're paying for last season's production, which was incredibly healthy season. And so I think, it's pretty fair to expect some fall off from a guy in his mid-30s at this point.
Funny, I think Vooch really like illustrates styles a lot. I was listening to Dan Besbris and Josh Lloyd. I forget which pod it was. If it was,
of course, Dan Besbris likes
Vooch. As the Roto King and the old man squad. Yeah, so that was like their pivot player where like, Dan's just like, what are you guys talking about? Like he's still just the floor he brings you, like he helps you everywhere, he hurts you nowhere. And I'm a little more of the mind of like, I still think there's too much upside on the bones in this round, in round 5. That I'm passing on Vooch. I'm perfectly fine to miss his high efficiency 17 points and 9 rebounds. I'm cool. That's just me.
The last fade I have, and then after this, I really feel like it's hard to get misses with these later round picks. It's like, it's once again, there's some guys I don't like as much, but the last guy I really don't like at this ADP is Michael Porter Jr., who was formerly one of my guys.
Mega Porter.
We saw last season's breakout, and it wasn't that good.
Yeah, I'm out on him too. I think I gave a little prompt or asterisk at the beginning of this podcast saying this isn't a do not draft or fade list, but I think some guys are just guys you're going to pass. And I guess that in essence is a bit of a fade list. But here's a guy in round 6 I think is going too high, and I just don't quite see it. He doesn't have the upside of some of the other wings in this range, and that's Cameron Johnson over there in Brooklyn. He has an ADP of 65. He's solid, but I just don't see a big jump coming out of his profile. He on the court, he's a very good role player. He's very smooth. He's tall. He does have a bit of elevation to his hair, so maybe that's a part of it. But I don't know. In the 6th round, man, give me Devin Vassell every time over Cam Johnson. Their ADPs are right next to each other, so I know we're going a little quicker in this part. So give me Devin Vassell every time over Cam Johnson. I think Devin Vassell, simply put, is Paul George in the making. I think that's his style of play. He's flashed the ability to facilitate, the way he's playing off of Wemby. Like I love Devin Vassell on this range. It's not even close. I think if you draft Cam Johnson over Devin Vassell in a 9-category league, you will regret it, my friend.
I agree with the first part of your statement for sure. Cam Johnson is sneakily way older than you think he is. I feel like he was a 4 or 5 year starter in North Carolina, and then he's been a few years at Phoenix. So there's not quite that like youthful pop like you'd expect. I think he is what he is. So I think projecting anything higher than what we saw last season is kind of fool's gold. Devin Vassell was really good on a per game basis last season, so I think he's kind of that post hype sleeper, and I kind of like that for him quite a bit. Paul George, I do not necessarily see that, but I do think he's a really efficient scorer, and on a team that's really going to need the scoring. So I like that. I'm not willing to call him Paul George though.
Hey man, this is just as clairvoyant as your John Collins is from Utah. Devin Vassell wears number 24. Paul George in Indiana, number 24. So that just kind of came to me. Okay, I'm gonna breeze through these and then toss it to you for anyone you have in these rounds. In the 7th rounds, Clint Capella with a rank of 74. Why? I've personally seen Akamwu go as late as pick 131 in a competent 9-cat draft. I took him there. So there's no reason to tank Capella here in round 7 as his role continues to diminish. There's just still other bigs with more upside who are going to give you similar profiles. Capella's hurt quite a bit. And I just don't see a reason. I still think it's too early. I think Capella is one of those guys that you grab if you're like, oh crap, it's round 7. I don't have a center. And you're on the clock. I mean, that's my opinion of why Capella would be in this range. I just don't see it. What about you on Capella?
I think he just continues to keep going on. I feel like we've projected the decline of him for a couple seasons now. So I think on one hand, I totally agree. I think that it should be a Conway that's starting. A Conway has looked awesome. He's way more upside. I don't know what Atlanta is doing, frankly. But at the same time, he's the starting center. And when he's the starting center, he racks up giant rebounding numbers and giant block numbers. I do think he's headed towards a timeshare. And so
he's in one. Yeah.
I wouldn't draft him at that particular range, but I would happily have Clint Capella on my team. But I think I would prefer him to slip a little bit further down to me.
I would temper your expectations on Capella, but yeah, okay, fair enough. He's still serviceable for sure. Okay, so too low in round 7 with a rank of 86. Kyle Kuzma, baby. He is the wing version of Jordan Poole. This dude's going to go nuts. He's going to get all the shots he wants. We talked about him in our Panic or Party episode, and I think I outlined he could average 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. So yeah, in round 8, man, round 7, round 8, please pluck away. He rank of 86. I'd be happy to take him high 60s. Where are you at on Kuz?
Yeah, it's fair. I think I don't see top 40 upside for him, but I think you see giant box scores. His role is really, his floor is so high. And I think you have the ability to potentially, if you ever need to change your roster construction, he's a guy that you can move on from pretty easily because he's somebody that can entice somebody else in a trade just because you can say, hey, this guy's averaging 25, 5, and 5. And they'll go, oh, okay, well, I could use this. So I like that. Which is the same reason I have going a little bit above him, Tyler Hero, for that same exact reason. Okay. I think he's going to put up monster numbers. And I think that I think his role is locked in. And I feel exactly for everything I said about Kuzma. I feel the same way about Hero.
I think at that point, it's it's what do you need as far as positional versatility on your squad? What I think Hero or Kuzma, it's just pick your poison on that. It's a layup either way in that range. But if, like you said, if you do draft Kyle Kuzma, you have that baked in advantage that if he has a big game on a Sunday and it puts you over the edge on your opponent, you can then send him that picture of Kuzma in that giant weird pink sweater. I mean, that's just a nice thing to have in your arsenal.
That's true. There's nothing more embarrassing than getting beat by the Kuz.
No, dude. So, you can make a coffee cup and send it to him if it's title week, all kinds of good stuff. But yeah, that's my list, man. We went 8 rounds deep. We wanted to try our hand at breezing through and while also giving a little bit of depth on why we think players are going a little too high or too low in their range. Nate, anyone on your list you got to unearth before we kind of wrap up?
Yeah, everything after this is kind of more of those kind of fringe starters. So I think we kind of covered the meat and potatoes of the draft, and we'll see how well all this ages. But that's at least our set in stone feelings of this particular second in time.
I'll use this opportunity just to remind people, maybe you're new to fantasy basketball, you stumbled upon this. I'm not the only person to stress this, but in the double-digit rounds, identify the upside targets that you have and take your shots. Don't worry so much about ADP. Once you're in the 120s, 130s, ADP doesn't mean anything. And I would never take a Kevin Huerter or Harrison Barnes or some of these kind of plugged in, no ceiling role players over some of these deeper cuts, whether it's any rookie with a last name Thompson, or go back to our rookie pod that we just put out and listen to some of those. Take shots. Don't think, I'm just trying to edge out my roster and I could use some free throw percentage, so I'll draft Harrison Barnes here. And I hate to pick on him, but he is kind of the Harry B line. So identify those upside players you want to gamble on, and if it doesn't work out, you don't have to stay attached to them. If their role didn't shake out in the rotation, if it's been a month and they're only getting, if say you draft Keontae George, we both like Keontae George, and he's not in the rotation yet, you don't have to hold on to him, but draft Keontae George before you draft I don't know, you got a journeyman point guard that is going ahead of Keontae George. The people,
Tyus Jones.
yeah, sure, or like I guess Emmanuel quickly, and we can
Trey Jones, maybe Trey Jones.
At this point, yes, he lost the starting job. I would take Keontae George over Trey Jones. Yeah, that's a good one.
There's something nice. There's something nice about drafting those guys that are either going to smash right away immediately, or you can cut them and stream them immediately. There's nothing worse than having that guy that you're like, well, he's pretty good, or now I gotta like hang on to him for a while. I think that's actually a little bit of an anchor.
Did we just name our waiver wire segment where we're giving advice on if you can cut somebody or keep them, smash or pass? I hope not. But we kind of just said that. So
that's our that's our Las Vegas themed podcast.
Oh man. Okay. Well, hey, if I'm hoping that this is gonna find you before your last draft of the season, that is my goal. Once Nate and I get off the pod here, I'm gonna chop this up and get it out as quick as possible. So thank you for listening. Please do let us know how you came across the podcast. If you're new to it, if you saw it on YouTube, please leave a comment. If you think we're blowhards, that's cool. Let us know why. But yeah, just let us know where you're finding this. And we will have another pod out just right around. I think Nate and I are going to try to make this coming Monday work in a couple days. So look out for that. And just welcome to the eve of the season. Any other words of wisdom, Nate?
No, appreciate everybody listening, and we'll come back for you and right before the season, and happy drafting.
We will come back for you. That's nice. All right, y'all. For Nate Strong Clean, this is Flying J, me. Just reminding y'all to just stay fresh to death. And good luck. Good luck week 1, unless if you're playing May.